Welcome back to the United Stand. Get that like button hit. Make sure you are subscribing. And more importantly, that bell notification button. Get it clicked. Get all the notifications turned on so you know when we are going live. Loads to talk about today. Loads to go through today. Strikers is top of the agenda. There's talk of Sesko. There's, of course, talk of Watkins as well. But we want to get your views. We want to get your opinions on this. I'm going to give you mine. We're going to be breaking that down. It does feel like those deals are now starting to advance, starting to accelerate and moving forward. So we know how important number 9 is. Plus, I saw a tweet, and I want to speak about a tweet from a Man United fan who says he doesn't like the Ineos approach this summer. No way buying strikers going to fix us. And I think it's really important we talk about this view from fans of being fixed this summer, because it was never, ever going to happen. We're going to take a look at the goalkeeper situation as well. Are we going for Martinez? Has that deal collapsed? What's the process there for United? So, yeah, loads to discuss. Been quite a few days since I've been on, so it's good to see you all. Hello to everybody that's out there. Someone wrote "Here we go" in the comment section. There hasn't been "Here we go," is there? That would have been. I've had a few of these when I've gone live on the United Stand so far this summer. It would have been nice to have got another one, but there we go. Some of your comments always make me laugh because you're talking to each other, so I don't know the context, and they're just beautiful and brilliant. But look, we're going to start with a big one: Watkins or Sesko. If we could put a poll up for the viewers, that would be amazing, because I want to see the breakdown. Because in recent weeks, Sesko's been killing it in those polls. We've also been told by Laurie Whitwell the potential prices. So Man United believe they can get Watkins for 40 to 45 million, whereas the deal for Sesko is between 70 and 80 million. And I think the price point is very, very important. So I'd love to understand that from you. I'd love to get your take, your views, and your opinions on that. Hello to Ryan, by the way. Thank you for saying hello. Hope you're good, my friend. All depends on the price. Well, Jacob, I've given you the price there according to Laurie Whitwell. Now, listen, it could end up being more expensive for Ollie Watkins, which I think is key. But let's go by the story that has come out today, that what Man United think they can get the players for. I don't personally think we can get Watkins as low as 40 million. I don't trust our ability in negotiations to get it done at that price. That's just my view right now. I don't see there being the sorts of I just don't see our ability of getting that price down that far. We're not great negotiators at this particular moment and juncture. That's just me. That's just my view. You may see it a little differently. Hello to Daniel Thompson. I hope that you're well. I'll see a few other people in it. Cody, Kevin. Hello, mate. Hope you're well. Who else is here with us? Percy. Hello, everyone. Hello to Man United content. Stuart, hope you're well. He wants Sesko. Now, look, let's go through some of the pros and cons. Look, for me, you've got the ultra-high ceiling of Benjamin Sesko and the long-term element of him. That's a massive advantage when you compare it to Ollie Watkins. It is. He is elite physically, an amazing aerial presence as well. Not just how high he can jump, very good, very dangerous in the air as well. So there's two factors. Plus, what you do have with Benjamin Sesko is sell-on value. So if Watkins does come in at 45, 50 plus million and doesn't work out, very hard to sell him on, because he'll be on big wages. He'll be in the latter stages of his career. Hard to sell on and move. Where with Sesko, comes in at 75, say, does well for a couple of years, but we want to move on. You could get a large amount of your money back, as long as he isn't a complete and utter disaster of a signing, but you've still got sell-on value because of his age. The cons for Benjamin Sesko are quite clear to me. He does have that lack of experience at the very highest level. He never played in the Prem or La Liga. So you've got that lack of league experience at the highest level from him. There is the adaptation risk, which is very much, how long will it take him to adjust to the team, the Premier League, the intensity? Will he hit the ground running? And of course, the high cost. We don't have a lot of money. And Man United need to be thrifty, we need to be sensible, and we need to be smart with the money that we're making. It's as simple and it's as straightforward as that. And I don't think we should be ignoring that, if I'm being absolutely honest. When it comes to Ollie Watkins, look, he's got that Prem-proven nature. Only 3 strikers have scored more non-penalty goals, and only 3 attackers have scored more goals in totality in the last 3 seasons. He's likely to make an instant impact, and he is quite versatile across that front line. He can drift out wide. He can, the link-up play is good. So 3 really important pros there. We spoke about it many times here on the United Stand. The cons, you've got a shorter window of him being in his prime because of the age that he's at now. There is, I suppose, maybe calling it a lower ceiling. Yes, he has got a lower ceiling. Watkins is at his peak, isn't going to get any better, where Sesko could go beyond this quality of Watkins. And it is a high price for a player his age with no sell-on value. So you've got to factor that in. And it's a real difficult one for fans to deliberate. And the reason why it's difficult is because we're not flush. Is because we don't just have the money to go out in January or next summer and just rectify the situation as we've seen Chelsea do in recent years. Oh, he didn't work. We sell him. Bang. We buy somebody else. We have to get this right. And I think that's why there's so much dichotomy of opinion, so much arguing. The fans kind of at each other's throats a little bit. I think a lot of that is going on right now in relation to the situation. But I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm just going to put it out there. I have deliberated a lot on this. And I said to Goldbridge earlier on this morning, we did a show together on my channel, The Football Terrace. If you've ever watched Friends, okay, with Ross, Rachel, Chandler, Monica, Joey, Phoebe, great show. The youngsters don't seem to like it, but it was a great show in my day. There's a very famous scene when Monica and Chandler get married. And I think in the morning or the night before the wedding, Rachel discovers that she's pregnant. And there's this whole big sort of side story to the main show of the wedding of, do I want the baby? Am I ready for a baby? I'll be a single mom. I don't know what I want. And it was comedic elements to it, some emotion to it. It was great. Then all the main female characters are in the ladies' bathroom, the ladies' toilets, to do a pregnancy test during the wedding. And Phoebe, the friend of Rachel, is holding the pregnancy test and waiting for the results because Rachel's too nervous to look. And she's talking about whether she wants the baby or not, whether she wants it or not, Rachel. And then Phoebe turns around and says, well, it's negative. You're not pregnant. And Rachel suddenly looks really disappointed. She gets really sad. And it's in that moment where she then says, actually, I really do want the baby. I'm sad I'm not pregnant. And Phoebe says, well, that's good news because you are pregnant, and it shows her the pregnancy test. And sort of did it as a test to see whether or not she really wanted the baby. Moments like this in football or in life always bring me back to that scene where sometimes you don't know what you really want until it's not available anymore. And now that Newcastle are closing in on Sesko as well, because we can't forget that Newcastle wants Sesko. That's a massive part of this story that you and I shouldn't be ignoring. And I'm going to go to the super chat on the screen in just a moment, if we could leave it there, please. And that's that now that another team's after him and United are deliberating over both. I like Watkins. I won't cry if we get Watkins. I won't be overly disappointed. But I prefer Benjamin Sesko, even at the prices quoted by Laurie Whitwell today. And my view is this. I trust Christopher Vavell. I trust the football decision makers at the club. I don't think they've led us too far astray with their signings in the last few years, especially not this summer. They've been excellent. And if they deem Sesko the better option, I'm going to get behind it because I like the player and I rate the player. I know there are some downsides. There are some concerns, but I believe it will work. And I'm also very fearful that if we get Watkins, he'll do well for us. He will. But in 2 or 3 years' time, we might be looking at Sesko at Newcastle or somewhere else, killing it, scoring, delivering, being looked at as one of the best number 9s in the world, and we might be kicking ourselves. And I feel we have turned down opportunities of signing very talented players in recent years. Caicedo stands out, £2.5 million we could have got him for. We kicked ourselves. Haaland we could have got. We kicked ourselves. For me personally, I would go for Sesko. I know he's young, but what's he going to have around him? Around him in that attack is going to be the likes of Cunha and Mbeumo, Bruno Fernandes. There's experience in there. It's not like Rasmus, who was a young kid by himself with other young kids and inexperienced players. We've bought some experience in. So for me, that's my personal choice. I'd love to get your views. I'd love to get your opinions right now. This super chat from Darren on the screen says, Sesko, for me, and Onana for midfield, Martinez for keeper. Making it an 8 out of 10 for the players bought in. Yeah, I like Onana. I think he'd be a very good midfielder for us. I'm not too sure what's going on with the goalkeepers. So United right now have called their interest in Emi Martinez, according to a lot of sources. And the reason for that is because we're just not prepared to pay the asking price that's floating around, which I would be a massive hypocrite to criticize due to the fact that I've been saying for a long time now that we need to be very, very careful with the money that we spend, very, very careful that we don't overpay for players, that we don't pay well above our own valuation, that we don't get hung out to dry, that we don't have our bellies rubbed. And even if we are going to pay a high price, we've got to make it hard and difficult and push back and sort of not coming out always looking like the bullied sort of victim in the negotiations, and actually come out with a little bit of credibility. So let's see what happens later in the window with Emi Martinez. It could be one that if the player pushed harder for the move or Villa need to raise some money, they may look at changing that price. But I've always felt at 40 to 45 million, that was too much money for Emi Martinez. There's obviously Lamine, I think it's how it's pronounced, the young goalkeeper at I want to say Antwerp. If I've got that wrong, I apologise. Again, I don't know much about him. I haven't watched him play, so I can't sit here and pretend I know. But many think that would be better value for money based on what I've read. So, yeah, the Emi Martinez thing is a little bit disappointing. But from my point of view and perspective, I personally wouldn't spend 40 to 45 million pounds on Emi Martinez. I think it's far... the return on investment isn't there. You actually go through the most expensive goalkeepers ever, barring a couple of very expensive flops. Most goalies are going for that 20, 25 million level. You know, doing 40 to 45, that's just trying to exploit us for the position that we're in. And as much as I don't want Onana in goal next year, I want an improvement. What I think stands us in better stead moving forward is getting better deals done for the club. And although some people may argue that just buying better players will make you a better team, I disagree. I think if you're a laughingstock, I think if you're not taken seriously in the industry, I believe that if you always bend over and have your belly rubbed, I believe it sends a message into that dressing room that we are not serious. We're a joke. We're laughed at. People are giggling at us. We're always getting screwed over. We're never coming out as the A side. How do we expect the players to run through brick walls when they feel that way about the way we're run? I do think there's a need for both. But yeah, great super chat. And listen, I wouldn't mind that. This here says, don't care about the striker, get a goalkeeper ASAP. I love this super chat. I love this super chat because it brings me on beautifully to a tweet that I saw this morning that I need to go and find. I need to go and find this tweet. And I'm not going to say the name of the account because I don't want to cause him any trouble. But it was a quote tweet of Laurie Whitwell's post this morning. And it said, the club's mindset for this window seems to be, if we buy 3 of the best attackers outside the top 6 for our front 3, our problems will be solved. It goes on a long thread about, no, we need midfielders and goalkeepers. This is a crazy, we're never going to be fixed if we do this. There's loads of great points being raised. The problem is, all the good points made in this post come after he has said, we think by signing 3 top attackers, our problems will be solved. Nobody thinks that. There isn't a soul at Manchester United Football Club. The manager, Vivel, Barada, no one. There isn't a sane Man United fan who thinks this summer would be solved. This squad, from the beginning of last summer, needed an 80, maybe even 85%, maybe even possibly a 90% overhaul. That is how much of this squad had to go. So it doesn't matter this summer whether we focused purely on the midfield and goalkeeper, purely on the defence and goalkeeper, a player in each position, in each sector of the pitch. We were only ever signing 4, 5, potentially 6, and they weren't all going to be world class. Even then, you were improving your first team, but we were never going to be completely fixed. And I think there are too many Man United fans labouring under that illusion that we were going to be fixed. And by the way, I completely concur that we need better technical and physical midfielders. I do. If we're going to try and ever win a league. But Man United are not thinking 3 top attackers fixes everything. What they are thinking, and they are right, is that so many of the games last season that we drew and that we lost happened because we didn't score goals. It wasn't that we were consistently dominated in possession. Yes, on transitions, we were often being overrun in the midfield when we lost the ball. But why was that so dangerous last year? Because we weren't finishing chances when we were in the ascendancy. We weren't winning games when we were the better team. And that happened so regularly. I think, even if you're the biggest United hater on planet Earth, I think it is... I think you would almost be lying to yourself. Lying to yourself if you weren't honest in the sense that we could have picked up 20 to 25 more points last season if we just had 2 or 3 players that could score goals regularly. We're now looking to buy that. So there is an element of papering over cracks. Not in the long term, but in the short term. And that's what's happened with every single squad build, every single club rebuild, or every project to go from being a bang average team to hopefully a title winner. Everybody goes through this process. We're no different. Even Chelsea, who spent 600 odd million pounds for a couple of summers, still didn't have all the issues resolved by spending that amount of money. It takes time to do it. So for me, onto that super chat, I want a goalkeeper, absolutely. But I think what's really key is almost fixing one very important department, and that's goals. Because those goals will win us more games. Those goals will win us more games. And you've got to remember last year, like possession-wise, we were like 6th highest in the league for possession on 53%. Spurs had 54%, Chelsea 57%, Arsenal 57%, Liverpool 57%, City 61%. So we're only 3.5%, because we're like, 3.5%? Yeah, no, I'm a liar. 4.5% behind the Liverpools, Arsenals and Chelsea's of possession. So when it comes, we won't dominate enough games. We will have the ball. And you know what's really funny, actually? The games that we don't have most of the ball in are actually normally against the teams that are all ahead of us. You start looking at our games against most of the teams below us in the possession table. Often we had 55 to 70, 60 to 65% against those teams. We weren't winning the games because we weren't scoring goals. Now, this isn't me saying we don't ever... And this is the problem with a lot of conversations. I know you won't do this at the United stand. But this is the issue that you get with a lot of United fans who saying we don't need a midfielder. Everything is hyperbole. Everything is polarized. Everything's an extreme. Of course we need to improve the midfield. But we were never going to fix every area of this team this summer. And I agree with the approach of let's bring in 40 to 50 more goals. You add 40 to 50 more goals to a team, it changes the landscape of everything. If we scored 40 more league goals last year, let's do it less, 30 more league goals last year, we wouldn't be as panicked today anyway, even about the goalkeeper. So, because the results would have been there. But look, I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your opinions on that. Let's go to what some of you are saying here now. So Andrew says, depends on long-term or short-term. Long-term Sesko, short-term Watkins. I hear you on that. So, but what would you go for? Do you want to make a long-term decision, or do you want to make a short-term decision this summer? What do you? And this is where fans have got to be fair to even Ineos that a lot of you don't like. If you say go for the short-term Watkins and we do it, and then Sesko's amazing in a few years, I don't want to hear you complain about it. You've got what you wanted. What you should be saying is, I was wrong. The club were wrong, but they did do what I say. I want us to go for the longer-term option here. I really do. We just have to score more goals than Onana lets in. There's a lot of truth there, my friend. Darren here says, hi, Terry, mates. De Gea, who will... Sorry. I don't know what you meant to write here. Who will the football club sign next season, but the football club need to sign a left back? Well, let's see what happens with Leon and with Dorgu. I've been impressed with Dorgu at pre-season. JJ here says, buy decent players. United buy decent players equals buying decent players won't solve our problems unless you are literally just want to whinge. This is a good place to start. The problem is with a lot of that some Man United fans suffer with is they don't truly understand why United are bad. They always think it's about a coach or about a couple of bad eggs or a couple of bad signings. Oh, I'll fix that and we're fine. These guys are idiots. I'll be honest with you. They're idiots. There's a lot of Man United YouTubers for years. It's always manager in, manager out. Get me a top coach. We'll be a great team again. They're idiots. They have absolutely no idea what goes. I got called out the other day. Said, Terry, a lot of your channel now isn't talking about football. It's talking about how clubs are run, the standards at your club, the importance of the hierarchy and the structure and the behaviour. It should just be about the football. But that is the football. That's the football in the sense of, if you want me to assess a game, we'll assess a game. But when you're asking, how do you fix a club, or how does a team go from not winning to winning, you have to look at the most important fundamental part, the heart. The heart of the club, how you're run day to day, sets the precedent, the standard, and the tone for how you're going to play on the pitch. You cannot find me a consistently successful, highly talented team that's challenging for major honours and winning them, who's poorly run. They don't exist. So you've got to start at the root cause, always. Root cause analysis. The issue with buying Watkins is that in 2 years he'll likely be in the same spot with Sesko. We'd at least have a long-term option to build around. I agree with that. The fear that I have with the Sesko deal, and I'm not going to pretend I don't have them, is if he doesn't work out, it's problematic. But I just think he will. I think he will. I think he'll do, just my personal opinion, I think he'll work out. I think he'll do a good job. Patrick Lynch here with a super chat as well into us says, I'm 50-50 on who I want our striker to be. Both have pros and cons. It's pick your position. Sorry, pick your poison. My apologies. In this instance, I can understand the club would either pick... I understand why the club would either pick either and make it easier for me to accept either. Well, I think that's, a lot of the replies are saying very true to Patrick. I think where you're right, Patrick, is that, again, if we end up saying no to Sesko because we've got fears that of how quickly he'll adapt and we need to score now, and we go for Watkins, I'll accept it. I'll get behind it still. It does mean that in another 2 years' time, we're going to have to buy another striker, but that's fine. If we're going to go for the short term, 2 or 3 years, Watkins banging in 15 goals a year. There's no sell-on value, but we'll look for the next Sesko or the next Ekatike or the next Delap over the next few seasons and add them in, then great. But Watkins will score goals for us. The great part of it is, if we end up with either, I'm not disappointed. I just don't want Jackson. That's the big thing for me. I don't want Jackson. I'm so against the Jackson deal. I can't express enough how desperate I am for that Jackson deal to not happen. Like, genuinely, I'm so desperate for that Jackson deal to not happen. And what was good today, because I'm going to give you a Fabrizio update in a minute, as per the title of the video, is that Ben Jacobs has said still Man United going for Jackson is very unlikely. So I do love that. That's a very good Jacobs cracker, I'm telling you. It really, really is. On Fabrizio, though, this is also interesting. And this is why I'm trying not to get carried away, because I just don't want to be disappointed. But what he said here is very interesting. He says that Christopher Vervael is internally, someone hasn't written that right. Christopher Vervael is internally this interest in Sesko. I think the aggregator's written that down wrong. He is internally sort of pushing this interest in Sesko. He is pushing for the opportunity. He knows the boy. He knows his potential, and he knows his development of how special he can be. And that's the element that gives me faith in this, is that Vervael is renowned for his ability to spot talent and everything else. I also hope that enables us to negotiate quickly with Leipzig if we can convince the player. Plus, this will be where I'm disappointed in Vervael. If Man United decide today, if Barada, if Sir Jim say, listen, Christopher, make the call. We want Sesko. If we decide on that outright today, if Vervael can't convince him, I'm going to be gutted. I'm going to be gutted. Because you know the player, you know the family, you know the agent, you know the club. You're now here. You know what we're trying to achieve. You've got to be able to sell it. You've got to be able to sell it. What would be embarrassing now is to go in for Sesko and then to... This is where we've got to be careful. Because if we go for Sesko and can't get him, and he rejects us for Newcastle, we might burn the Watkins opportunity as well, because he's going to know that we didn't go for him first. So we've got to get this spot on. We've got to get this absolutely spot on. I don't know why I've got earphones on. I'm not listening to anything. And it always makes my sound weird. Patrick is back with the super chat here. Patrick says, and I quote, I always have more worries when we buy players and I can't see the logic behind it. If I can understand the thought process, I might not like it, but at least I can find these decisions easier to accept. I get ya, but I think there is logic behind all of our deals this summer, as in the fact that we're focusing on goals. I get what we're doing. We had a large amount of the ball last year compared to most of our opponents. There were so many games where we had more shots, more opportunities, more chances. We didn't take them. We then get caught on the counter, or we can see the dodgy goal, lose or draw the game. The goals are going to change that for us, in my personal view. Now, we have to factor in that other teams will get better, but also other teams may get worse as well. So there'll be some games next year. Like you could imagine right now, Brentford's going to be a much easier game than it was last season, as an example. That being said, Sunderland coming up and Leeds coming up might be harder games than last year's newly promoted teams. So you have to weigh that all in. But from our point of view, let's just put your hand on your heart for a moment. Forget the owners, forget the manager, forget who you do and don't like. Hand on your heart, and I want to see this in the comment section now. I want to see a yes or a no, so I know that you're listening. All right? If we had Sesko, Mbeumo, and Cunha last year, could we have won? I'll put a little figure on this. Could we have won 8 more games in the Premier League last year? Just 8. Could we have won 8 more Premier League matches? That's converting some draws into wins and some losses into wins if those were our front three. I want to see how many yeses we're getting. Or could we make that as a poll, please? With Sesko, Mbeumo and Cunha, could we have won 8 more Premier League games last year? Hand on your heart, could we have done it? I don't know if we need a poll. Most people are saying yes. Most people are saying yes. 8 more games. Now, I use 8 because that's 24 points. Now, that's maybe minus 4 points because 4 of those are draws we turn into wins, right? Half and half. So let's just do the math on that very quickly, right? This is quick math. Quick math, right? Let's look at last season. Let's add 20 points to our total. That would have put us on 62 points. We'd have come in around 8th. And I would have been 8th, which wouldn't have been amazing. But that's a conservative estimate of coming in that position there. If we'd have finished 8th last season on 62 points, then what you've got to say is, well, would we be as stressed going into this new season? Would we be as worried going into this new season? I don't think we would be. We'd also be buying different players, right? We'd be buying goalkeepers and midfielders and maybe going to another level. So for me, I sort of look at this situation, and sometimes football is a very simple sport, and it is. You score more goals, you typically win more games. And that is what we're aiming to do at this particular moment. So Patrick, back to your super chat. I absolutely get what we're doing. I mean, you could argue we could win 10 more games. You know, maybe we're adding 24 points, which would have brought us into... You remember this. I added 20 points. If you added 24 more points, so maybe 2 more wins, 1 from a defeat, 1 from a loss, 1 from a draw, so that's 5 points extra. So let's do it from draws. 2 more draws turn it into wins, so 4 extra points. That would have put us last season on 66 points, which was enough points to come 5th, which is the Champions League position. So that's why I don't think we're a million miles away from that level if we bring in goal scorers. Even when you think about that defeat to Newcastle at home around Christmas time, we went 2-0 down quick. Go back and watch the chances we missed to make it 2-1 before half time, to make it, which would have then been 2-2 second half. We missed so many chances. Are these 3 boys missing them? I don't know. I don't think so. So I get the strategy. I really do. You are forgetting the points Onana cost us. No, I'm not forgetting those points. Because I still go back to those games where he cost us, And look how many chances we could have scored still. So even with Onana diving the wrong way, the Brighton game, for instance, is one that wouldn't have changed. So if he made 2 big mistakes in that game, you still lose it as an example. But just go back, do the exercise later. When you're done here, later on, just go back and rewatch those games. Remind yourself by looking at the stats and the amount of shots we had, and just remind yourself of the chances we missed. And then do the math yourself on just yourself as a thought exercise. How many draws and losses could this new attacking 3 have changed last season? And see whether then that league position would how it would make you feel if we'd have been in that position, and what you think about now, how you think about going into this season. So that's the way I'm viewing it. I get the strategy. I really do. 91% of the votes so far also agreeing with that, and I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see people are agreeing with it, and I'm not sitting here thinking craziness. What would Phoebe do if Rachel said, "Oh, thank God"? Well, then what Phoebe would have is a great question, Gaz. And I can't speak for the character of Phoebe, who is fictional. But then in that scenario, it's like, well, at least thank God I'm not pregnant. Well, you are pregnant. You've now got a decision to make. Are you going to keep the baby, or are you going to do something else, right? I don't want to get into that kind of deepness on the United stand. But at least either way, she would have known how she truly felt. Same difference. For instance, in that same scenario, Gaz, if it was announced today, like, yeah, Newcastle leading the race for Sesko, if I'm like, oh, I'm not that bothered actually, then you know your answer is Watkins. It's the same difference. It's the same difference. It works in both directions. I don't know I don't know that Watkins or Sesko are the answer, but there's more of a ceiling with Sesko. Full stop. Yeah, and Andreas, maybe don't always think about every signing as the answer, because not every signing is. Not every player Norgard that's gone to Arsenal is not the answer for them winning the league, but it's a part of the squad. Man United, we're still only in the second summer of Ineos's squad part of our rebuild. We would all have agreed 18 months ago, we'd have all said 90% of the squad, 85% of the squad, got to go. We also would have known, well, how long is that going to take? 3 or 4 summers. So we were never fixing everything straight away. And I know there is this propensity to want to see improvement, and I want that too. And that's why I'm hoping we score more goals, we shoot up in the league. And that's what's crazy. Imagine everything else last season was the same, but Rasmus and Garnacho were scoring goals. Like, deep that for a moment. Would we be as focused on the midfield or the goalkeeper or the defence? Would we? Would we be as angry? The formation was the same. Training was the same. Possession, the chances created, the goals we conceded, everything's identical. But imagine Garnacho scoring those chances. Remember the game home against City? Remember away against Tottenham? Remember those chances in the second half against Arsenal, the draw? Like, you're talking about 6 points just in those 3. Sorry, actually more than that, because we didn't draw. We lost against Spurs. You're potentially talking about 7 points in just those 3 games that goal scorers would have changed. And that's why I'm calling BS when people talk about style of football is all I care about. I think Man United last season is proof that you don't. Because as more of those games become wins because we score more chances, people would be raving about the system. Now, because we're not winning, we're almost over-analysing the flaws. The flaws exist because the squad's going to take 3 or 4 years to build. That's why the goals are key for me. Just my view, just my opinion on that. Let me know. By the way, if you haven't hit that like button yet, people, get that done. Get that like button smashed. Very, very important indeed to the channel that is hit. This year says, we ain't getting Belieber. No, I don't think we'll get Belieber this summer. I'd love Belieber, but I don't think we'll do that either. I think. Could Belieber fix the squad? No one player is fixing the squad. Let's leave that train of thought behind. No one player is going to suddenly make everybody else be amazing. That's an impossibility. The squad will be fixed when it's complete. When we have, compared to when Ineos took over, you're talking about 90-odd% of their original squad gone and new players in. There'll be a final piece of the jigsaw, but they didn't fix us. Because without all the other components prior, that one signing wouldn't have fixed us either. Team sport here. Darren says, if we buy Benjamin and a keeper, what score would the Arsenal game be? I'm not going to lie, peeps. The Arsenal game as well was a little bit of a motivator for me. Arsenal United. Well, United Arsenal, we're at home. Sesko Gyökeres. There's something in that. I told everyone when that fixture came out that I smell a fix. I smell a fix. What a game. What an opening start to the Premier League weekend or season that would be. Emily here says, seeing one player as the answer is too simplistic. You're spot on, Emily. It's far too over the top. Football is a team game. Each player is a part of the solution, which is why we all fall by repeatedly sacking managers. The vision becomes disjointed. Absolutely. It's when you don't have a vision or that the club and the manager are not aligned. But you're absolutely right. We have got to drop this talk sport level of analysis, which is, and Sky Sports level of analysis, which is, which player fixes Man United? Well, there isn't one. You're probably talking between now and if and when it's done, you're talking 15 plus players. Some are squad players, some hopefully are world-class players, but it's that combination. And then when you've got, I think why we're in that mind frame is because of what we were. So in the Fergie times, we'd go, oh, we're so close. Let's go and get ourselves Van Persie. We're so close. Let's go and grab Roy Keane. We're so close. Let's go and grab Veron. We're so well, we were winning when we bought Veron. You get my point. Oh, we need to improve. We're a really good team. We need a better defender. Let's get Rio. That's what we did. We're not that club anymore. We are so broken. It's a different kettle of fish. It's a completely different situation that we are in. I've also just seen Chelsea fans here melting down online because of the Garnacho links. That's one to watch, by the way. Garnacho could be there, but that's my view. Look, I want to thank each and every single person who has tuned into the show today. I'm back Thursday. No, I'm not. Am I? Might be tomorrow. Friday. I think I'm back Friday. Friday, 2 p.m. I'm back. I'll be on That's Football doing a watch along for the North London derby as well. So I know a lot of you will watch That's Football. It's part of Mark's community. So I'll see you guys all there. Listen, everyone. Please hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure they've got that bell notification button turned on as well. Very important to us here at the United Stand. Take care. Good. Actually, we had a new super chat come through. I won't ignore this. From Kevin. He says, Sesko may lack Premier League experience, but with the service from Cunha and Mbumo, he'll get chances and we will score goals. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you, mate. I do. Listen, everyone. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for you tuning in. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again.